Fahad and Overtone Industries and Olan. And it was about Nancy Green, who was the very first woman to take on the role of Aunt Jemima for the new pancake company. And Lindsay was our very fabulous Nancy Green.
Yeah, yeah. So Lindsay, I just thought I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what it was like to get introduced to Jason's work and his particular style of writing, and working with him, specifically writing for your voice.
Yeah, it was such an honor of an experience, especially with the Aunt Jemima piece that we got to work on together. And especially to have the music catered to my voice and my range. And I thought that was really special. And it was a pleasure to be able to interpret that music, both Jason's music and June's words. And it was exciting. It was easy to sing and fun to sing. And I was really happy to be on that project. And then with this one, it was really cool because on the Aunt Jemima piece, you know, I sang the solo lines and I wasn't involved really in any of the ensemble portions of that music. And so on this one, even though I did have this one standout solo line, most of it was the ensemble part. And so it's cool to see the contrast in your writing between like solo lines and the ensemble stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, I'm so used to, prior to the pandemic, mainly doing things in person. And so the challenge for me was, you know, a lot of this ensemble stuff. I'm like, man, I really wish I could stand next to the rest of my altos so I can see how I'm fitting into this part. And so, because, you know, they're virtually the same parts, but just at different points, staggered against each other. And so, so that was a lot of fun and challenging to do by yourself. And then it was refreshing to come in and do a nice little solo line. So yeah, this was a great project to do, and to be able to distinguish between the two different styles that you have as a composer. And yeah, this was great.
Well, my old voice teacher, may she rest in peace, would just be thrilled to hear that I actually wrote stuff that was easy to sing.
I love that. I love that.
My very first vocal piece, I actually wrote a whole sentence on a high B for the soprano, like the whole thing.
Yeah, that's not right. That's wrong.
And she looked at me and she went, no. And so she said, you got to take some voice lessons. So I took voice lessons with Kathleen Dara for a couple of years during grad school, and it was so much fun. And but it was really all to learn how to write better for voice. So it was very much worth it.
That's great. And we're also joined by David Saldana, who was also one of the singers on the project, and also did all the videography for the video.
Amazing work, by the way, putting it together.
I have an embarrassing thing to admit, which is I forgot to turn the sound on for the first 30 seconds. So if we want to go back and reintroduce yourselves, that would be a wonderful, I think, thing for everyone watching.
That's amazing.
So that was
I'm
right
Fahad.
after praise.
My name's Fahad. I'm the music director for HEX, and I helped organize this project. This is Jason Barabba.
I wrote the piece.
You wrote the piece, and Lindsay Abdo is one of the performers and the featured soloist at the end of the work. So, and we were just talking a little bit about kind of some of the origins behind this project and how it came to be. So, as Jason was saying, we had done this kind of virtual opera project, not a virtual choir project, earlier this year with Overtone that was based on the history of the Aunt Jemima character. And it was after that project that that Jason had approached me about this particular project, right? So can you just tell me a little bit about kind of how you went from there to here and wanting to, you know, like,
yeah, well, I mean,
what inspired you?
Let's start with the piece. I wrote this. This is the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, is the text, and I wrote it the second or third week of November of 2016, largely because I was trying to figure out where to put all of the emotions that were flooding through my head at the time. It was such an awful time, and I needed to do something with it. And so I had already been thinking about the fact that we as a nation need to figure out how to be comfortable with the people that we disagree with. or we're doomed. And so I was thinking about it from one side of before the election, from one version of that, and then I had to rethink about how do I approach that after that election. And so this is a very emotionally intense piece for me, just because that's where I put all those emotions. And when we started working on it again 4 years later to put this together, it actually flooded me back with it all. But once we had done the Aunt Jemima video, in fact, Fahad, I remember pulling you aside while we were filming saying, I've got some choral pieces. And so having access to these fabulous singers, it seemed like the right time to try to do something. And we were originally going to do it over the summer in Los Angeles in person, but then the Delta surge made that seem like a bad idea. So we decided to do this piece as the virtual.
Yeah, and it actually ended up being really great. There was some wonderful video work, just what you were talking about in terms of, this idea of interpersonal conflict and like intersocietal conflict, and having to find ways to talk to each other. David, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to hop back on and just talk a little bit about the video and how you kind of brought some of that idea to life with the visuals, if that's
I would
possible.
love to. Give me there we go. Okay, yeah, I would love to talk about that. I loved Jason's piece. I loved singing Jason's piece, and I was very captivated by how he was trying to capture the multiple, sort of shouting at each other's that we have a lot in this country, and trying to turn that into something visually artistic was kind of at the top of my priority list. Top of the priority list was, do our lips go with a sound? That's top of the priority. But a pretty good second was, is it, how does that visually translate in a way that's going to be effective? And one of the things that I did was I used a bunch of transparency layers. And if you're not video editing or even working on Photoshop or Illustrator, right, it just means that there are different ways to allow transparency through an image, so that you can start layering things on top of each other. And there was a very, very I think effective one that I forget which one it was, but it was just like would start brightening a bunch of the brights on it until you get that. The image at the beginning at the title screen that everyone saw with all the faces kind of on top of each other became, I think, my go-to for how to visually communicate the shouting that Jason's trying to capture through sonically.
That's great, and it's super effective. I think people will see that when we show the video. And Jason, just a little bit about the solo at the end. I remember as we were talking about this piece and looking at the score, you specifically were like, "I'd really like Lindsay to do this. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Well, you actually happen to you happen to have put it in an alto part, so yes, that is."
Well, I mean. The Nancy Green role in Aunt Jemima was originally going to be a soprano, and then we found Lindsay, and I changed that to her voice. And it's as much as it was lovely for her to say it was an honor for her to be part of this. It was such an honor for me to have that quality of this lovely voice and this wonderful person that I've just met this year. So I'm sort of enjoying the quality of her voice, which is unusual and beautiful. And so I didn't know the other altos. I was sure they were great and that anybody would be fine, but I was kind of wanting to explore a little bit more with Lindsay, especially because we're going to keep writing the Aunt Jemima opera and there's going to be more music for her. So it's kind of nice for me to practice with her voice a little bit.
And here's a little bit of a curveball question, I guess, but the whole piece is this choral work, right? And at the very end, you choose to have one single voice come out and deliver these last lines. And I wonder what was sort of your vision for that? Like why that moment to just have the singular voice kind of appear and deliver these last bits of text?
Well, I mean, it's a very episodic piece in the sense that sort of it as you're listing the things that go through the preamble, they all have these sort of different, they're all very kind of separate ideas about what's important in the nation. And then, so we've gone through, provide for the common defense, ensure domestic tranquility, but then at the end, it's like, do ordain and establish this Constitution. So it's like all of these things are what's important to the people writing the Constitution. And then at the end, it's the saying, these are the reasons why we're doing this. And to me, the way that those words are written, it really needed to be a solo. It wouldn't have worked as an ensemble piece, I don't think.
And how was it, Lindsay, to deliver the sort of have the final word of the piece and kind of bring it all home? And you were saying, like, in this instance, you were part of the performance of the whole piece, and you sort of step forward and you have this final, we ordain.
It kind of, it personified it for me. Because at first I just kind of, when you're part of the chorus, you're part of the ensemble, it's kind of like we're doing all the same thing together. And then as I step out, I'm like, oh, wow, like this is real. And so even though like technically I'm in my studio and I'm stepping out on a solo, but when I kind of like, when as a soloist, I have to kind of like meditate on my solo lines. And so as I kind of meditated on, I'm like, wow, like I really feel like this is real. And especially those lines, do ordain and establish this constitution. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And so, I have to look it up and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, we're supposed to be in this together. We're supposed to like govern each other as a country. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. This is scary. I can't imagine what he was feeling when he wrote this, back when all of that was happening. So yeah, it definitely just makes it more real. That I actually got to sing that particular part. So yeah.
It's great. It's a great experience to just be able to sit with these words for a long time. I think, as Americans, right, as people who are like born and raised around these words and inundated with them all the time, I think they start to lose their meaning, and to actually sit and sort of meditate on them musically for an extended period of time, it does bring it to life and does sort of elucidate what a wild experiment American democracy was in the beginning. This idea of going from monarchy to saying, what if we ruled ourselves? And seeing like the sort of evolution of that idea, and how some people seem to really want to go back to monarchy of some sort, and and what it looks like to rule ourselves, and that having that constant tension, that constant back and forth of what that looks like and how it can. It was a great experience for me too, to just spend time with the score and get to know it and prepare it for the singers. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think this is the moment where we show the piece. If you have any comments or any questions for us, you can type them into the YouTube chat, and then we will come back on for a few minutes following the showing of the video, and we will answer them as we are able. Otherwise, David, please take it away. And here's We the People by Jason Barabba.
I want you to stop right now and listen to how stupid you sound. How can you possibly think that immigrants are bad? Aren't you immigrants? Aren't I immigrants? Aren't we all immigrants? Why do you think that we should keep this out? The world is so small right now that people need to be where they are and no other place. Why wouldn't they come right here? Why don't you just move it and accept that they can actually help wherever we are, develop this country, develop this city, develop this
Your
state.
whole life, you're forfeiting, you're giving it up to somebody richer than yourself who wants to take from you and take everything.
No, you're killing me, Larry. Rich
Of the United States. The people of the United States. Ensure domestic
Great. Wow. What a joy to get to revisit the video. I have realized I haven't seen it in at least a few weeks. So Jason, reactions?
It's funny. I did not expect it to look the way that it did, but I love how it turned out. And that's the nice thing about partnering with talented people. You can just sort of let them do their thing, and it turns out really great. And if I had organized the video myself, I don't think it would have been as good, because that's not my area. So I think it's amazing. I feel so lucky to have such great singers doing anything of mine, you know? It's an honor. It's a pleasure. It's like, it's so cool.
Yeah, we do what we can, you know, little things. It's great. Well, this was a real pleasure to get to share this with everybody. If there are any questions for Jason, you can put them right into the YouTube chat, and we can.
Or you can just tell me I'm pretty.
Or you can just tell him you're pretty. That's fine too. We all accept compliments of all stripes. So.
And if not, I just guess I can say thank you to everybody involved. The singers were so lovely about every aspect of this, and Lindsay, it's always nice to work with. So
Lindsay, have you gotten to see the full video yet?
Just watched it right now.
But this was the first time you saw it?
My first time.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
it's always like a horror story for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I look like? I just close my eyes and listen.
Yeah, I thought that the visuals came together great, and thank you, David, not just for the video, but also for doing all of the sound engineering. David did all the mixing and mastering afterwards, which is really the true magic of doing any kind of virtual choir sort of projects. I mean, the singers, you know, they go so far, and then it's completely reliant on the editors afterwards. So really, really appreciate that. Okay, well,
I don't want to overshadow my fear of looking at myself to say that it was amazing, beautiful video, and it was great to like hear all the voices together and like the genius of the composition. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, this has been great. Thank you for the people who joined us. Thank you for the people who helped make this happen. And hopefully we'll have more of these, because this was fun for me.
Wonderful. Okay, well, this will live on YouTube forever, so feel free to share it with your friends. What do they say? Like and subscribe. Is that a thing? Like and subscribe. And and hopefully we'll catch everybody on the next project. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.